Shiv Arora is also joining me live right now. Shiv, absolutely shocking information that's coming in from Punjab. A young singer, only 28 years of age, had just entered the political fray, having been shot dead multiple times. He was shot at multiple times by unknown assailants in Mansa district, not very far away from his ancestral village, and all because his security cover was withdrawn yesterday, part of some sort of what seems like a populist measure that the government of Punjab undertook, but clearly did not do a proper threat perception assessment as far as Sidhu Moosewala goes.
The number of questions, follow me, that are going to be landing like a ton of bricks on the Bhagwant Mann government at this point of time, cannot be imagined. For the 28-year-old, globally popular Punjabi pop star, someone who had made gangster rap really popular the world over within the realm of Punjabi pop music, to be murdered in this manner less than 24 hours after his security cover was withdrawn is beyond alarming. You and I both reported on this story. Remember that Sidhu Moosewala needs no introduction. His music is famous the world over. He's a person who has been no stranger to controversy because of the subject matter of many of his songs. They're about gun culture and things like gangster life and things like that. But that's his pop star and his music life. The fact is that this was a person who had joined the Congress party amidst a lot of fanfare last November. He fought from the Mansa constituency, which is where he is from. He's from the Musa village in the Mansa constituency. He lost to the AAP, the person who won from the AAP, Dr. Vijay Singla, but he was a person who was seen to be the big kind of popular face that the Congress needed to turn the tide. But politics aside, the fact that a populist measure of some kind that may have followed some kind of process resulted in the removal of security of over 400 people, as you rightly said, which is part of a process. Every year these things are updated and reviewed. So on the face of it, there may not be anything alarming about security of individuals being reviewed. But for this particular individual, for his life to be taken away less than 24 hours after his security was removed, throws up an obvious alarm bell, follow me. And that's a question that only Bhagwant Mann and his fledgling government in Punjab will be able to answer. Already on social media and in the political landscape, you are seeing a great deal of finger pointing that has already exploded, saying, we told you so, this is what the Punjab government is worth, this is political vendetta. They've just, you saw what Manjinder Singh Sirsa said, that a young Punjabi pop star's life was, played around with. There was tamasha over a young life. And that's what happens when you mix politics with the security of people. This is a nightmare scenario, Polomi, as far as Punjab is concerned. You were in Punjab. You covered the elections. You remember the mood on the ground, with the Khalistan factor, with the violence factor, playing such a big role at that time. It became a very, very emotive issue. This young man, 28-year-old Sidhu Moosewala, whose real name is Shubhadeep Singh Sidhu, is something that's not going to settle down very easily. There are going to be enormous questions, and I think the first big questions are going to be with the Bhagwant Mann government. Yes, there will be a police investigation. Yes, there will need to be a deeper probe into what precisely what the circumstances under which he was killed. Who were the killers? What was the issue over whether he was killed? Was it drug related? Was it gangster related? Some kind of personal enmity? Were these people simply waiting, Polomi, for his security to be withdrawn before planning this hit? I think is going to be the biggest and most hair-raising question at this point.
And that is an important question, and that is a question that many will be asking. Were these people simply waiting to, in fact, go ahead with this hit, because it comes just a day after his security cover was withdrawn? And speaking of Manjinder Sirsa, Shiv, one of the points that he raises, and he raised it yesterday as well, when the security cover was in fact withdrawn, you can see it on his Twitter timeline, that a list which is a confidential list of 424 persons whose security cover stands withdrawn is out in the open for the public to see on the day the security cover is withdrawn, and the next day a young life is in fact snuffed out.
Absolutely. I mean, just think of it this way, Polomi. If whoever it is who has killed Sidhu Moosewala couldn't do it all this while because of the kind of security that he actually had around him. He had elaborate security around him because he enjoyed the security that was provided to him by the government. If the government has, through due process, basically said that you don't need this security anymore, then it points to an even bigger lapse, which is an intelligence failure, which means that they failed to detect the threat to Sidhu Moosewala's life. Now, I find it hard to believe that Sidhu Moosewala or his team or the people who he was with, it's highly unlikely that, they wouldn't have known that there was a threat to his life of this kind. He was a person, like I said, who dabbled in controversial things, who had strong political views, who had said things in the past about Khalistan, who had been in controversy before, over training with an AK-47, that kind of thing. The gangster life is something that he embodied. But if the Punjab government has somehow failed to detect a specific threat to his life and therefore withdrawn the security that was actually keeping Sidhu Moosewala alive, then I'm afraid that the questions for Bhagwant Mann and the team that advised him to pull away this security is going to be beyond just the usual questions that will be asked in the political landscape. Because right now, the Congress party and many others will be saying that this is practically political murder. That's what the mood is going to be right now. And like you rightly asked, Polomi, were these people waiting, simply waiting on the sidelines for the security to be removed before, mounting this hit? Appears to be borne out by the fact that this 28-year-old pop singer was murdered 24 hours after that security was withdrawn.
Absolutely, and those questions are being asked, and the questions will be asked not just of the Punjab Police but of the Chief Minister himself, because he holds charge, Shiv, of the Home Department.
That's right, and who else but him to answer these questions? The fact is that the Punjab election was fought with Bhagwant Mann as the chief ministerial face. He had come to power in the shadow of Arvind Kejriwal with huge questions, with huge promises of a new start, a Naya Punjab, moving away from the violent, unpredictable past. All the political things that had been said at this time, there were promises that would be taken away. It's going to be very easy for Kejriwal and Bhagwant Mann's detractors and critics to say, you've lied to the entire state and thereby won the election when you've actually changed nothing. They're going to accuse the Punjab government as well as Arvind Kejriwal of, playing with the life of a young, Punjabi pop star. And let's also remember one thing very, very clearly, Pallavi, which is that Sidhu Moosewala was a Punjabi. He had spent some time in Canada as well. But his renown, it is too little to call this guy a Punjab Congress Neta. He was a global superstar. He needs no introduction. Everyone knows who Sidhu Moosewala is. He isn't a person who needs any introduction because his music was truly viral and iconic the world over. As Manjeet Sehgal was telling us a short while ago, he was a sensation on YouTube. Generations of young Punjabis all over the world, and they do have some of the largest diaspora, considered this man iconic. Of course, he was controversial. There were many people who, criticized the kind of subject matter that he dealt with in some of his songs, because there was a lot of gun culture, the life of a gangster and things like that. But, that's very much part of gangster rap. That's something that can perhaps be debated later. But there were some lines that blurred for sure between his art and his real life. He got into trouble, over videos that went viral over him firing an AK-47. He got into trouble for his views on Khalistan. One of his songs, praised Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. There were other controversies that dogged him as well, not very long ago. So the line between him and, his art was always very blurry. There was an Arms Act case that was filed against him in 2020 during the pandemic as well, Polomi, a year before he joined the Congress. So it's not like it's not like his real life and his music life were very separate. Sometimes he embodied that kind of gangster culture. So
right.
The questions that will now be asked are going to be, who killed him? Did they know about the security being withdrawn? And how did they react so quickly to actually get him bumped off? This is a gangster-style killing. Let's make no mistake about it.
Absolutely.